Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey. Good boy, Tucker.
Work smarter where you want.
This is learning at its most fun.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Austin Johnson. I am a trainer and subject matter expert here at Redtail Technology. Just wanted to thank you for joining us today for a new partner spotlight. To give you kind of a run through of what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be exploring a new integration partner that Redtail has recently integrated with called Holistiplan. We're going to first meet the founder, talk a little bit about how the company came to be, which is going to be followed with a demo of both the product and the integration. And then at the end, we'll be taking questions from you, the audience, using the QA or the chat feature equipped in the Zoom meeting to answer your questions about Holistiplan and its integration with Redtail. If for whatever reason you need to step away from your desk, don't worry. Today's presentation will be recorded and posted to both the Redtail help desk and to the Redtail YouTube channel. So you don't need to worry about missing any of the action. With that said, let's go ahead and jump to it. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, I just wanted to get to know a little bit more about you. So tell me a little bit about how long you've been working with advisors, what was kind of your journey into the industry, and maybe even a fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my journey into the industry actually started well before Holistiplan. Holistiplan is about 18 months old, coming up on 2-year anniversary now. So that we've been working with advisors through Holistiplan, and now we have actually over 1,500 firms subscribing to the software in just really 15 months of having launched officially. But before that, I was an advisor, and I still am an advisor. In fact, I'm also a Redtail subscriber with my RIA. I was a career changer out of corporate finance. I spent about a little over a decade in corporate finance in my 20s and early 30s, and then got into financial planning in my early 30s. Worked with a firm, became partner in that firm. Again, Redtail subscriber in that firm as well. And left in 2018. My partner and co-founder, Roger Pine, was also an advisor, also running a practice, different practice, him in Texas, me in Northern Virginia. But we've known each other for quite a while through a peer group that we were both members in. And that's how we started kind of formulating the idea even well before 2 years ago, but we both left our respective firms in 2018. And then in early 2019 is when we really started to put pen to paper when it came to Holistiplan and the ideas behind it.
Awesome. So it sounds like you've been pretty successful at running your solo RIA practice. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to make Holistiplan.
Yeah, it was a desire to make financial planning more scalable. In our industry, we know as advisors that there's been a lot of time and effort and money spent on making the investment side of what we do scalable. Robo-advisors, rebalancing software, lots of capital has been spent in trying to come up with ways to make the investment advice that we give more scalable, and it's been successful. That has become far more scalable now than when I started in the industry 13 years ago. What Roger and my idea is to now make the other things that we do on a day-to-day basis as advisors, tax planning, which is what we're going to be talking about today, but other things that we do could certainly become more scalable, like insurance and estate planning. But right now we're focused on tax planning. We really feel that we get a lot of bang for your buck as advisors by being able to provide tax planning to clients. The problem is there's a lot of time and effort that needs to be spent doing it. If you're going to do it manual, you need to be educated on it and practice it in order to do it really well. And Roger and I realized that that's not a scalable endeavor for advisors. It takes too much time. So we decided to create software that helps make that whole process of a tax return review and then tax planning for future years far more scalable, efficient, easy to use and get the advisor out of some of the mundane tasks that are involved in that, like actually reading a 200-page tax return, looking for opportunities in it, and also data entry involved with the existing software that was out there before Holistiplan in order to try to do forward-looking projections.
Awesome, Kevin. Well, I think advisors can all agree that we're always looking for new opportunities to save some time. So why don't you give us a demo on what Holistiplan does and how it works?
Sure, let's do that. I'm going to share my screen. Austin, I'll just check in with you to make sure it works here. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, great, thanks. All right, so again, the premise of Holistiplan is to make advisors far more efficient and far more comprehensive at the same time. So Holistiplan is designed for the advisors that currently aren't doing tax planning software, or doing tax planning, I should say, because they've found it takes too much time, or they don't yet have the skill set in order to provide tax planning observations or advice to their clients. For the folks that are doing tax planning today and happen to be reviewing tax returns and looking for planning opportunities from a client's tax return, this is going to make, Holistiplan is going to make it radically more efficient for you to be able to do that. You won't be reading the tax return anymore unless you want to, and you won't be entering nearly as much data as you would if you were using traditional tax planning software, or in many cases, like my own case, when I was running the larger RIA that I was a part of from 2008 to 2018, we were using Excel. Excel is great in some ways, but very imperfect, particularly when it comes to trying to do tax planning every single year with all the various tax planning changes that occur year in and year out. So that's the background for Holistiplan. So how do we make it radically more efficient and effective and save you time and money? I'll show you. So one, I'll touch very briefly on the integration with Redtail, and then I'm going to dive a little deeper and show you how to get started on that towards the end of this demo. But as a Redtail subscriber, you're going to have an integration with Holistiplan, so you're going to be able to just pull all of your household information from Redtail into Holistiplan. So when you log into Holistiplan, you're going to see this as your dashboard, and you'll see I've got household names down the left, and then we've got some columns. Some are going to be NA until you upload a tax return. We do populate, because Redtail has date of birth and state. When you pull the information over from Redtail into Holistiplan, we're going to pull that information in for you. So the state column and the age milestone column will be populated for you. The age milestones are a helpful guide for you, the advisor, to know a quick snapshot of what age your client is and what potential planning opportunities are either coming up or that they've already surpassed. So you can see a couple examples here, like we know that these folks are QCD and are eligible and RMD age. We've got 24 or so age milestones that are planning focused related. So some are like age 49 and age 50 for catch-up contributions, age 59 and a half, a whole host of those, various Social Security ages for your clients. And then you can filter by those, allowing you to quickly identify your client set that might fall into one of these categories. Maybe you want to send all of your RMD aged clients a email or a article that you read. You can quickly identify those folks in Holistiplan as we pull in date of birth from Redtail. So the premise of the software, again, is you upload a PDF tax return and we produce a client deliverable report within seconds. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's presume I've pulled my client data in from Redtail. I've got this household here, John and Sally, fake name, and I'm going to go ahead and upload a tax return and get started. So I click on this link here. I select whether I'm uploading a 2018 or 2019 return. Of course, we're now into 2021, and we're about to start to see 2020 tax returns as advisors. So we'll have a 2020 button up there very shortly as well, so that folks can start uploading 2020 returns once they start receiving them from their clients or their clients' CPAs. In this case, I'm going to select 2019. It assumes I want to upload it to the household I selected, which I do. So I can just click next. And now I'm going to choose the file I want to upload. It does have to be a PDF document. There's my tax return that I want to upload. I click on open and click on upload. And now that screen goes away and I get a little green text that the document is in the queue. What's happening now is Holistiplan is reading through that tax return. This particular tax return that I'm uploading has a CPA cover letter in it. It's probably 75 to 100 pages. Holistiplan is reading through the entire document. You can see I didn't even get all that out. It's already done. It read through the document. It pulled all the data that was relevant for planning purposes into a client-ready report that I'll show you in a minute. And it not only pulled the data and excluded all the data that we didn't want, it analyzed that data as well to give you potential planning observations that the software has identified for that specific client. So that was done in what, 10, 15 seconds. I'm gonna now, I can click on the tax report. And now with your logo up at the top, so you'll be able to upload your logo. This is a completely white labeled report. So this is between you and your client. Client name as you pulled it in from Redtail through our integration. We start the report with some key figures, some items that are coming from the tax return itself, the important numbers that are coming from the tax return, or even some things that are not in the tax return anywhere. Things like, but are incredibly important from a planning perspective, like what marginal rate they were in, what was their average rate. And we've got little question marks here. If you're wondering what any of these are, you can click on the question mark and a little pop-up window appears to define what that is. What their next year's, remember this is a 2019 tax return that I uploaded. So we show you what the 2020 safe harbor amount is. And then we show you some things, again, from the tax return that are portfolio related. So your qualified versus your ordinary dividends, short-term versus long-term capital gains, total versus taxable Social Security. The key figures are really just a quick snapshot so you, the advisor, can get a really quick look to see what your client's tax situation is. But then we go a little deeper and we'll show you what marginal bracket, ordinary income bracket they were in right here. And then also what capital gains bracket they're in. Because of course, everybody knows we've got two brackets. We've got ordinary income bracket and then the qualified income bracket, which are long-term capital gains and qualified dividends. So we show where the client is in both of those brackets. Over here to the right, we're showing all the various planning opportunities that exist in the tax code that are modified adjusted gross income based or have tiers or limits based on MAGI. We show whether the client is over, under, or in any one of those phase outs. And we show the limit as well. Sometimes a little known fact, unfortunately, out there is that there is more than one MAGI number. It's not a number that's on the tax return anywhere, of course, so you've got to, if you're going to know what it is for your client, you got to calculate it yourself if you're not using software like Holistiplan. We do that calculation for you for each one of these opportunities. It's not the same number. Most of them always start with AGI, but they'll add certain things back or exclude other things in calculating MAGI. And we've done all that work for you and show you whether your client is over, under, or in any one of those phase outs. For your clients that are over age 65 and have Medicare B and D premiums, we're going to show if they're going to be, because of their income, if they're going to have to pay IRMA premium adjustments 2 years out. In this particular case, they wouldn't. We also show what the MAGI number is for this particular IRMA threshold and where they are within that. So you can also kind of quickly see, are they getting close to one of those thresholds and should I be concerned about that? Then we show a couple other things, the itemized deduction summary, Schedule B income source, Schedule D summary as well. So again, a nice summary taking a 100-page, 200-page potential tax return document and boiling it down into a 2-page summary for you and for your client, because as we know, our clients can oftentimes be overwhelmed by that tax return, and the only number that really resonates with them is the total tax due and whether or not they've gotten the refund or they owe money. And we know as advisors there's a lot more that goes into good tax planning than just that number. So we provide that summary, and we also provide potential observations that you, the advisor, are going to want to at least think about, consider, and maybe talk about with your client. You know your client better than we do, of course, or better than the software does. So these are really, think of them as helpful hints, breadcrumbs that allow you to quickly identify potential opportunities or just have a good conversation about taxes with your client. So some of these, as I keep the screen open there, some of these are really fact-based observations that may not have any actionable event that would occur. Some do though. Some are going to say maybe you should consider a Roth conversion. It's going to identify things like what the mortgage interest was and whether or not it makes sense to continue to itemize. There's one down here below that is relevant for the second part of the demo that I'll show you. It's this: per the CARES Act in 2020, required minimum distributions have been waived. It identified that these clients were over age 70.5 in 2019, had an RMD, and the software's at least making sure the advisor knows and the client knows that RMDs were waived in 2020. So again, lots of helpful observations. You can hide any one of these. This report is customizable. So you can move things around. You can hide certain sections if you'd like. So for example, if that IRMA premium, if your client is only 45 years old and you want to hide that section, well, you could just go into settings here and you could hide that section if you want and collapse that. And as we scroll through, you'll see that that section is hidden. It's no longer there to the left. So customizable at the high level at certain sections, but also in these observations. If I wanted to go ahead and hide any one of these, I can just click on that eye there, and it's going to hide any of these observations from a saved PDF document or a printout if you're going to do that. You can also add observations as well here in this text box. And if you add anything in here, it's just going to add it to the list up there. You can also, if you don't like the wording or you wanted to add another sentence or delete a sentence from any one of these, you can go ahead and edit by clicking on that pencil as well. And that'll allow you to edit any specific observations that the software is making. We also provide, again, because we pulled in state from Redtail, you're able to, or we're able to identify helpful hints from a state tax standpoint as well. This is really helpful for all the advisors that have out-of-state clients. Right? I'm an advisor in Virginia. I know Virginia state taxes pretty well. I know Maryland fairly well because I've had in my past a lot of clients from Maryland. I don't know New York state taxes or California state taxes very well, but I used to have clients that were in those states. So this provides very state-specific examples of the rules in those states for each one. We've got all 50 states in here. We crowdsourced this information to really identify the things that were relevant that an advisor is going to want to know about their client's state tax situation as well. And then disclaimer down at the bottom, again, you can upload your logo. You cut and paste your disclaimer. That's going to show up on every report. You just do that one time. I'll show you when I show you the integration piece, I'll show you where you do that as well. But when you set up the software for the first time, you just upload your logo and upload your disclaimer, and that'll be on every report, like I said. So that's the report. Again, so within seconds, really, you're getting of uploading a PDF document, you are getting a nice, clean client deliverable. Or if you're working with a prospect, you get that prospect's tax return. You can show them the types of value you're adding beyond the investment, beyond maybe retirement planning. You can show them what you can do on the tax planning side as well as part of that prospecting stage. So that's a summary of one half of the software: upload a return and get a client deliverable. The second part of it is now that's great. We know where they sort of stood in 2019 or eventually here in 2020. It's a good, nice look back and a good opportunity to see what we could potentially do for 2020 and beyond. But now I really want to see what should we do this year and maybe even in future years. So now from this report, I can click on the scenario analysis screen. This is that tax projection and what if scenario tool that lots of folks in the past primarily used Excel for, really. And that was part of the impetus of Roger and I creating this, is realizing that we were both in our respective firms using Excel. Roger's firm was also using another tax tool, but it was very cumbersome to enter all the data and to maintain that as well. So what we've done is streamline that for the advisor. When you uploaded that PDF document, it created that report, but what it also did is pre-populate this scenario analysis screen with all of the data all of the relevant data from the 2019 tax return. So as I scroll through here, you'll see all the data's pre-populated for 2019. Now all I need to do to get started let's go back 2 weeks when we were all doing tons of tax planning and doing those last minute Roth conversions or realizing of capital gains or losses. So let's pretend this is happening 2 weeks ago. I'm going to do, I now know what 2019 looked like, but I also saw from the report and know from reading that in 2020, my clients don't have to take an RMD. So I'm going to model that. So all I need to do is copy from scenario one. Let's see what's going on. Copy from scenario one. Hey. There we go. Sorry there, internet a little slow. So now all of that data has now pre-populated for me in editable fields. You can see those boxes are now editable. Now all I really need to do is change the date. I'm gonna do 2020 planning now. I can change the header as well. I'll go ahead and do that. Call it 2020. And now I can go ahead and do some 2020 tax planning. Right? All that data is there. Now, for example, I would know that their Social Security is going to be a little higher in 2020 than it was in 2019. So I'll go ahead and make that change and call that 36,000. Maybe their pensions will increase a little bit. You can go ahead and make any changes that you know about. And then obviously I'm going to make the change here that I'm going to assume they're not taking their RMDs in 2020. So I'm going to zero that out. And now I can see, just without making any other changes, if I want to scroll down, I can see what their total income is going to be, what their AGI is going to be, if their standard deductions or itemized deductions are going to change, and what the total tax bill, how that's going to change. So I might talk to my client just about that hey, without RMDs, your taxes are going to be cut in half. But what I might also want to see is, does this provide me any other opportunities, right, to do some tax planning? Maybe I should be bringing in some income into 2020 via a Roth conversion or realizing long-term capital gains. So first step in that process, traditionally what we would have to do is if you're looking for a Roth conversion possibility or capital gains, you would be trial and error, plugging in numbers into an Excel spreadsheet or another tax planning software and narrowing down on the right number. We've done that narrowing down for you with the Solve for Max and Range Calc screen. By clicking that button, you can see within seconds, we tell you how much ordinary income you could add to this scenario before the client pays a higher rate on the next higher marginal rate on the next $1,000 of income. So this one's showing me I could do roughly an $11,500 Roth conversion, for example, without making the client pay a higher marginal rate on the next dollar of income. Same with capital gains. So I could take maybe long-term capital gains of 11,500 before the client starts paying a higher marginal rate. We also show what the next Medicare breakpoint is as well. Those are those IRMA premiums. So oftentimes advisors get caught with, they do everything right from the tax side, but then recognize 2 years later that what they did 2 years prior is increasing Medicare premiums. We highlight that for you as well in this Solve for Max button. I can dig a little deeper then if I want to and click on Range Calc, which is that green button there. And instead of just showing me one number, now it's actually going to give me a nice color-coded graph of what is driving that number and beyond that number. So here is I clicked on Range Calc for the current scenario that I have. That's the one that I'm not taking an RMD for my clients. And you can see that the marginal rate doesn't change until I get to about that 11,500 mark. And all of a sudden we've got a spike in marginal rate. And even though I'm staying in the 12%, that blue 12% shows I'm staying in the 12% ordinary bracket. This is a good example of there are other things that drive the marginal rate the client pays, the effective marginal rate the client pays beyond just what ordinary income bracket they're in. In this particular case, what's happening is adding ordinary income is pulling capital gains that were previously taxed at the 0% rate to be taxed at the 15% rate. And as I add more income, medical expenses that are being deducted are becoming phased out because of the 10% floor. As I increase income, that floor increases, making more of my medical expenses non-deductible. So we're factoring all of that in so that the advisor can really see and show their client what's driving the changes in their tax situation. We've got net investment income tax that comes up further out. We also show if your client is 63 or older, if in 2 years they'd end up, we show you the various thresholds or the break points for Medicare B and D IRMA premiums by this dotted line here, and show you the dollar amount that their premiums would increase if you go beyond this from an income standpoint. So we've got that for ordinary income. We've also got it for capital gains. So you can see maybe the strategy is Roth conversion, maybe the strategy is long-term capital gains realization. So gain harvesting instead of loss harvesting. And so this is an example of that. I'd have a choice here. I could do an IRA distribution potentially, Roth conversion of 11,500, and I'd know what my taxes were or what my marginal rate would be. And here, the same thing, if I did it on capital gains, I'd see that I'm paying very little, or my client's paying very little in taxes until about 11,500, and then it spikes up and they start to pay 15% capital gains. So armed with that information, I could go back to the scenario analysis screen. I'm not going to make any changes to this scenario because I want to show the client what it means if we just don't do the RMD. But now I'm going to copy from scenario 2 that already has the 2020 date saved. It already has the RMD not taken. And now I'm going to show what if we just increase capital gains by, let's say, 11,000. So I'll add that to 20,595. And now I can scroll down. This is a capital gains harvesting strategy. I'll scroll down and I'll see that it increased the taxes just a little bit. Those are those medical expenses that are getting phased out, but not a material change. And I'll see though that if we take a little bit more, we're going to start to pay some additional taxes as well. We also show for any scenario that you build where they fall now in all those MAGI planning opportunities and thresholds. So you can see in some cases we're going from a phase out to under a phase out, over to in a phase out, and then back over depending on the scenario. So we show all those for every scenario that you build, including the ACA premium tax credit. We again show Part B and D premiums. Did any of your scenarios make them pay a higher premium? And then we've got a withholding calculator that you can add in case we're some part through the year and you want to see what your scenario would result in taxes owed and versus how much they've already withheld. And I can also show the tax report. So that tax report that I showed you earlier, I can show it for any scenario that we've built as well. So here's that scenario tax year 2020. I can now show that this year they're going to be in the 12% bracket. They were in the 22. And if you recall, in the 2019 tax report, they were paying 15% cap gains. Even with taking those realized gains that I showed you in scenario 3, we're keeping them all in the 0% bracket. So this is a good check. And I can see that I'm, though, pretty close to that 15%. So I go $1,000 more than that, and we're going to start to have them pay taxes on those capital gains. So that's the software. Again, it's just a couple screens. You can, by the way, you can print these reports. You can see the print report up here. Now, before I kind of turn it over to questions with Austin, I figured I'll show you how the Redtail integration actually works. So the way you do that is you go to your admin screen and click on Firm Admin. And this is where you can do things like upgrade your plan, and we'll talk a little bit about the pricing plans here towards the end of the webinar. But this is where you would upload your logo. This is where you could cut and paste your disclaimer. And this is where you would turn on your Redtail integration as well. This is already turned on for me for the demo purposes, but this would show up as Enable Redtail integration. You would just click this button, and you would be enabled to start with the Redtail integration. Here is a great video that my colleague and partner Roger created that walks you through step by step in less than 10 minutes how to set up this integration. It is a two-way integration. So I've talked a little bit about pulling the households from Redtail over into Holistiplan, but we're also pushing data to Redtail as well. So the observations that we're making and some of those key figures from the tax report, you have the ability to click a couple buttons, and those are going to go into your client record in Redtail for you. So it is a two-way integration. Once you've enabled the Redtail integration, you go to your My Account under Admin, and then you would just go ahead and enter your credentials for Redtail. As you'll see by the note here, we are not storing your Redtail credentials. It's just creating a unique key so we don't keep your username and password. You can see once I typed in my password and clicked on that button, I got the little alert that it's ready to go. It's been approved. So there's just a unique key behind the scenes that connects Holistiplan with Redtail for you. And then I can click on this Redtail import wizard. And this is where I can start. You can pick where you want, like the tax observations from the report or some of the key figures that we send over. You can select in Redtail where you want that in the client record. In this case, I selected the correspondence and meeting notes. And then you can also select what types of contacts you want to migrate over. So in this case, in my firm, I would select AUM clients and then pull that over, fetch clients, and then that's going to pull the clients over. I'm going to show you what that then looks like on, so you would go through that, you would fetch all your contacts, it would come over, you'd select which households to put them in, and then on the household screen, let me get back to the household screen, what you're going to see once all the households are in there is the Redtail logo right here. And if you, so that'll show that you pulled that over from Redtail. And if you click on the logo, it will actually open up a new window and go right into your contacts page for that contact in Redtail. So that's the software. Again, just a few screens. We've prided ourselves on making this really intuitive to use, really easy to get set up. It's designed by a couple of advisors that wore your shoes or still wearing your shoes for more than a decade. So we're really trying to make this intuitive, easy to use, not take you tons and tons of time to get set up, and keep it very simplified for you. So with that, Austin, do we want to handle questions?
Yeah, definitely. Before we go to questions, I know there's probably going to be some questions around pricing and
Yeah.
how to get in contact with Kevin and his team if you're interested in signing up. So just wanted to share with you guys their information here. So here is their pricing model. And at the bottom, if you want to learn more, you can either visit them at holistiplan.com or send them an email at info@holistiplan.com.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.